Hello and welcome to the week ahead from the Financial Times in London. Here are some of the big stories we're watching this week. In his autumn statement, the UK Chancellor brings out his plans for the economy after the Brexit vote. Retailers hope to bring Christmas cheer early with a Black Friday shopping day. And Ukraine holds its first meeting with EU leaders since the game-changing election of Donald Trump. We'll start in the UK, where on Wednesday, Philip Hammond is going to set out his first fiscal statement as Chancellor, and the first since the vote to leave the EU. He's promised to reset the government's policy on public spending, taxation and borrowing, and to give himself more headroom, as he's told colleagues, to deal with any slowdown from the Brexit vote. But he's also indicated this isn't the time for the government to lose its budgetary discipline. The FT's economics correspondent Gemma Tetlow says it will be a tricky balancing act.
On the one hand, the borrowing forecasts are likely to have increased significantly compared to March, both because tax revenues have been quite weak this year and the Office for Budget Responsibility is likely to judge that the UK economy will take quite a significant hit from the vote to leave the EU. On the other hand, the government has made some commitments to helping the so-called just about managing families, many of whom are thought to have voted for Brexit. And they've also suggested that there might be money for infrastructure and to help boost the productivity of the UK. At the start of the summer, Mr Hammond talked about the idea of a fiscal reset, but increasingly, particularly as we've seen quite strong recent economic data suggesting that there hasn't been an immediate hit to the economy from the vote, it seems likely that actually Wednesday's statement will be rather more pared down and perhaps a little less revolutionary than some might have originally been expecting.
The UK's Office for Budget Responsibility forecasts low growth both in 2017 and in the medium term, meaning the government will need to borrow more than planned, and that the deficit will not be eliminated by 2020. Staying with the UK, consumer spending so far has been resilient since the Brexit vote, with the strongest retail sales growth since 2002. Retailers will now be looking to see if any nerves are creeping into consumer behaviour on Black Friday. UK retailers in recent years have imported this American tradition of a day of steep discounts, aiming to draw consumers into shops without actually giving much away. Retail correspondent Mark van der Veld has more.
Black Friday is quite new in the UK. Retailers love it because it gets people into stores. They also hate it because it means cutting prices, and before Christmas is the time when you really want to get people paying top dollar. Now, in the UK, it's quite an interesting moment. Will prices go up as the pound sinks? Probably, but not yet. Will consumers be more reluctant to spend than they had been in the past as they start fretting about what the Brexit vote means for the economy? Possibly, also probably not yet. In the US too, it's a moment of economic uncertainty. We don't really know what the effects of the unexpected Trump victory will be. What we do know is that retailers have Black Friday down. They've been doing this for decades, and they know how to get people into stores without giving too much money away. They're very wily about just where they offer their discounts.
Also in the US this week, we'll be getting some signals from the Federal Reserve about how soon it plans to raise rates, with the release of minutes from its latest policy meeting. The central bank recently hinted it's getting closer on deciding to lift interest rates again after its increase in December last year. And this decision will be made, of course, in the wake of Donald Trump's victory in the US presidential election. Mr Trump's triggered anxiety in Europe about how Washington's policy towards Russia will change. Against this backdrop, Ukrainian leader Petro Poroshenko this week meets EU leaders for the first time since the US poll. They'll be discussing Mr Trump's often contradictory answers on issues such as the future of Crimea, the Ukrainian region annexed by Russia in 2014. And Mr Trump's first phone call to Russian President Vladimir Putin when they talked about greater cooperation. At a recent meeting of European defence ministers, Ursula von der Leyen, German defence minister, sounded a note of warning to Mr Trump.
Insofern ist es vollkommen nachvollziehbar, dass auch der zukünftige amerikanische Präsident das Gespräch mit Russland sucht. Für uns gemeinsam ist entscheidend, dass wir mit Russland die gemeinsamen Probleme, zum Beispiel den Kampf gegen den IS, lösen wollen. Aber für uns ist auch wichtig, dass wir unsere Grundsätze nicht vergessen, die da heißen, dass internationales Recht nicht gebrochen werden darf. Ein offener Punkt ist nach wie vor die Annexion der Krim und der hybride Krieg in der Ostukraine.
The meeting will also be grappling with the future of an association agreement between the EU and Ukraine, which is in doubt after Dutch citizens voted against the treaty in April. Diplomats from The Hague and Brussels are still working on a compromise. And that's what the week ahead looks like from the Financial Times in London. Goodbye.